9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Russia's brutal invasion has driven millions into poverty and debilitated but not quite destroyed Ukraine's economy. Meanwhile, sanctions are straining the Russian economy, but they are yet to end a war that has sown financial turmoil and personal hardship in the region and across the globe. It was clear from the start that Putin's war in Ukraine would be a global economic disaster. Its economic impacts may be insignificant next to the suffering and loss of life on the battlefields. But they do present critical challenges that leaders must resolve to limit yet more suffering through poverty, food shortages and the cost of living crisis. To illuminate these challenges, Economics Observatory has been publishing expert insights on the war's economic implications ever since Russia fired that first set of missiles at Ukraine in February 2022. For the people of Ukraine, incomes have plummeted. Poverty in the country soared from 5.5% of the population to 24.2% in 2022, according to the World Bank. The war has thus pushed 7.1 million more people into poverty, undoing 15 years of progress. Further, Ukraine is now one of the most food-insecure countries in the world, despite being one of the world's biggest exporters of crops, such as maize, barley and wheat, before the war. The United Nations UN World Food Programme estimates that 1 in 3 Ukrainian households is food insecure, rising to 1 in 2 in some areas of the east and south. Ukraine's rising deprivation is, in part, due to job losses following Russia's destruction of infrastructure such as ports and manufacturing plants. It is also a result of a slowdown or cessation of economic activity, including agriculture. See below. Deaths among household earners also add to the deprivation. In August 2023, the UN Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights (OHCHR) recorded 26,717 civilian casualties in the country, 9,511 killed and 17,206 injured since the conflict started. This is almost certainly a major underestimate given the challenges of gathering accurate figures from areas blighted by intense hostilities. Separate figures from US officials are far higher. They report nearly 500,000 casualties across Ukraine and Russia as of August 2023, with around 60%, 300,000 of these Russian. Clearly, many would argue that there is never a good time for war. But the timing of Russia's first full-scale attack on Ukraine in February 2022 felt particularly brutal. It came at a point when societies around the world were attempting to resume business as usual after 2 grueling years of the pandemic. Businesses faced chaotic supply chains as they tried to meet resurging demand for goods and services, and started passing on rising production costs to their customers. Russia's attack on Ukraine placed a further squeeze on critical commodities, food and energy. This was the result of reduced output from both countries and sanctions on Russia. Costs climbed even further, triggering inflation rates that far outpace wage growth. This cost of living crisis has diminished the health and well-being of people around the world, especially for the poorest, and increased the risk of famine. The conflict has hit food security around the world. Before the war, Ukraine and Russia were together the world's largest exporter of wheat, responsible for over a third, 36% of wheat exports. They also exported more than half of the world's sunflower oil. Early predictions, including those in Economics Observatory, that the conflict would exacerbate global food insecurity have, sadly, proved to be correct. It has hit developing and emerging economies the hardest, as they rely more on Ukraine and Russia for fuel and grain imports. The Food Security Information Network highlights the war as a key force alongside the pandemic. other conflicts and extreme weather behind a staggering rise in the number of people who are food-insecure. Nearly 258 million people in 58 countries' territories were in food crisis or moderate to severe acute food insecurity in 2022, up from 193 million in 53 countries' territories in 2020-21. This is the highest figure on record since the organization began reporting these data in 2017. And while the currently defunct Black Sea Grain Initiative, see above, helped to get more grain out of Ukraine, figures show that it mainly went to wealthier countries.
Subscribe to my channel.